What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your July 12th daily creative reading. So we're going to dive right in here. I have already set the intention, so we're going to jump right on in. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for July 12th, please? Messages for July 12th. Thank you so much, Spirit. I'm going to pull one for the end. Okay. I'm hearing bottom. You are fierce. Whoa. I like that energy a lot. Okay. All right. So this says with love. Oh, I like that. With love. Dearest you, did you know that when you stop fighting and accept everything exactly as it is right now, miracles start to happen? There's a freedom in this kind of radical acceptance. Let go of unrealistic expectations and see things as they really are, not how you'd like them to be. You'll be surprised at how everything seems to fall into place. When you refuse to accept things, life gets messy, you act messy, and your world stays in chaos, tension, and disarray. But don't try to force a change or manipulate circumstances. Instead, learn about what is in front of you and face it with your eyes fully open. Then you can decide, stay or go, sink or swim, move or stay still. Acceptance is the key to freedom and opens the door to the real opportunities waiting to be discovered. Set yourself and others free. Loving you so much, always and forever. Love that energy. Some messages of acceptance. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for July 12th? Messages for July 12th, please. Whoa, that was nary a shuffle. What? Okay. That's better. All right. Okay, so we have the Queen of Swords, Seven of Pentacles, Eight of Wands. That wanted to come out yesterday a little bit. We have the Hanged Man, Five of Cups. Ooh, the Sun. Justice, Nine of Swords, Knight of Pentacles, and Ace of Pentacles. This could be a project that you're working on that kind of gets the green light. I have this sort of like, I don't see the Queen of Swords as waiting. It's not a waiting energy, but this seems sort of like suspended in motion. Like you have to be clear and not get your heart too invested in something, because it's like it relates to work in this context. This could be relationships, like in terms of romance. This could be having a long-term relationship, or things that you're both investing in, or ways that you're investing in the relationship together that needed more logic than it did heart. Just because, and that might sound counterintuitive in relationships, but it's like when you're evaluating a problem, if you keep having a problem, okay, there's a conflict that keeps coming up. You need to solve the conflict. And sometimes that requires 333 on the time. That requires you seeing things very clearly, including yourself, right? So it's like, I think that that's how this is going to help a long-term thing flourish as well. That's the flip side of this. In terms of a project that you might be working on, this could be how projects are flourishing. This could be how you are flourishing in the context of a project, right? It's tapping into that logic. So if you feel like you've been in your feels a little bit lately, it could be, pulling out of that or away from that temporarily. Don't disconnect. I'm talking about like this sort of logical detachment so that you can see things with greater clarity. And that also helps to enhance the nature of the investment that you're making in something. This could also be like a waiting, right? Like there could be some clarity you're gaining on a project that you've been waiting for the green light for. And that I keep hearing green light, right? It could just be this card, but I see the movement here. So this could be travel. This could also, but I get that this is forward movement and momentum, and like in a direction, not like movement for the sake of itself. Like This is you going in a specific direction that you're passionate about, that's important to you, and this is communication about that, right? So it's sort of like like there was a waiting period, and then it just like things pick up and start moving really quickly, and that's where this could become a tower if it goes unchecked, the Hanged Man, because it's like the waiting period it's not past. It's sort of like it's a time, like it's understanding that it's a time to make decisions, and that waiting itself can become the illusion, right? Waiting too long on something, or I guess also like believing that you don't know enough is another thing. That's another side of the imposter syndrome, right? The Five of Swords, that imposter syndrome is like feeling like you don't know enough. And it's like, but you do. So it's understanding that this is here as a sort of reminder to temper your energy and to temper the way energy is flowing through you, because this is helping you to see. It's helping you to see that the disappointment you felt before may not have been in it. Like, it's like, are you seeing things clearly relative to past disappointments and using them in a way that helps you to evaluate next steps and moves? Or are you viewing them through the lens of this is how I've recovered, and this is how I've moved forward, and this is how it's been really helpful for me, right? So it's like the sort of remedying of the perspective that it's just like that regenerative perspective where you're seeing things clearly, and that awareness of what your illusion has been, where you are, and all of those coming together in the present moment. It just clears the path for you. It clears the path. And I think this is communication with someone, or multiples of people. Like this could be, the Queen of Swords can represent a boss. This can also represent boss. Like it's not the Emperor, no. But to me, it strikes me as like a manager or somebody who knows their stuff and is very, very strategic at work, right? And sometimes you need that to navigate, corporate cultures and all of that stuff. So it could be that kind of energy if this is work or creative project related. And it could be that you've spent a lot of time trying to get into that energy too. But there's something, I almost feel like this to me represents travel, but it's also a card of traversing at the same time, which travel and traversing kind of similar energies. But the way I see it is like you're traversing something. So this could represent new, especially given the Ace of Pentacles here. So this could be a new offer, new project, new work. I'm seeing a compass as well in this. It's not there, but I feel a compass in this. So it could be a directional change, right? A directional change that's helping you to get rooted in a specific way. And if you notice, this particular pentacle is not among the 7 that are here in terms of shape, color, or, decorative capacities. So it's quite different. So it could be a different kind of investment that you're making. Not a bad one. I think it's important though to keep your perspective, clear. Keeping your heart in things is important. Connecting to that is important. This isn't to detach emotionally. This is to understand that there needs to be some kind of long-term thinking. That's what strategic thinking is. I think about it in terms of, some people might say it's like manipulative thinking, but to me, strategic thinking is about saying, okay, this is where I see things in the short term, but this is my long-term goal. This is my long-term strategy. This is what's important to me. It's knowing all of these things and factoring them in, right? I see this as like the ultimate project manager, right? So it's like you're able to look at all of the aspects of the tasks, and you know where it is that you need to put that creative energy, that creative investment into things, be it yourself, your relationship, work, projects, what have you. And I think that there's this sort of dance between disappointment and happiness, where it's almost like this Hanged Man is like the integration of these two energies here, in the way that it's coming through in these cards, where it's like this disappointment, but it's like it's you need to look for the light. That's the enlightenment. The sun is showing up in the antagonist energy in this journey today. I believe that the way it's coming across here, certainly is that you can almost like deny yourself this happiness if you're not looking for it, right? The protagonist is the things that you've learned. This to me is like learning that's taken place in the heart space. But it's like if you don't connect that to the bigger picture joy, then joy becomes an antagonist, because it means it's always inaccessible to you. It's always inaccessible to you. That's the other message of the Queen of Swords, right? So it's like you can evaluate your disappointments. Yes, do that. Don't overanalyze them and be in that energy, because then you become the energy of the thing, as opposed to saying, wow, that didn't really work out like I thought. Okay. And not going to what next. It's feel it all, and then integrate the lessons of that, and then from there move forward into a what's next that is part of a long-term strategy, not just feeling the disappointment and going, okay, what now? Because you're trying to avoid feeling the thing. Feel it. Feel all of it. The challenge is justice here, and I think this is being inside integrity with yourself. Justice to me represents integrity, and it's a cause and effect card, right? I say this often of this card, where it's, the justice is the minor arcana reflection is the Ace of Swords and the Two of Swords, cause and effect. So it's like owning this truth, owning the it's like the alchemical process that takes place when you have a truth and you articulate it, and then the effects of that, and it's being very clear about what it is that you not just desire, but this is what you want and your direction, right? You have the big picture view, and you can see in many different directions because you've got that sort of air aspect working in your favor here. But I think the justice card is the main challenge, is because it's like, how are you, the justice that we do to ourselves or unto ourselves, the injustice that we do. I'm hearing this, the quote by Maya Angelou, don't let the song, like the song inside of you die. Don't let the song inside of you die. It keeps but it's like, what is that song inside of you, right? There are many facets of the ways that can come through, but it's like being inside integrity with yourself is doing that, right? It is doing that. It's looking at with this channel, for example, I love doing tarot. It's, and also just, talking spirituality, integrating that with my transness and having, offerings to others of that nature. To me, it's really powerful, and it's something I love doing. And to me, it's a justice that I do to myself. That I do for myself to do this, as a fun thing and putting it out there. And for those who are inspired, amazing. But it's also that aspect of this is how we do justice to ourselves. So are there parts of yourself that people aren't seeing, or that you're not letting yourself see because it's this disappointed energy that's just stuck in a loop? So you never really get to the point of joy with it. So it becomes that you sort of antagonize joy because it doesn't meet the expectations that you've set. And this is like your ceiling, right? Your ceiling is the Five of Cups, and then joy comes along and tries to blast it apart, but you can't get there yet. But it's not that joy is the problem. It's that you haven't really taken the time to integrate something, right? You haven't taken the time to grieve something. I went through this the other day, and I was like, oh, what? Like, I didn't think it was that important or that profound. To me, it was a bit of a shock, because I was like, oh, I thought I dealt with this. But you roll with it, you feel it all, and you let it pass through you, so that you're not hanging on to something that you don't need to. Because what an injustice that we do to our precious hearts when we keep joy outside of ourselves, and we let the Five of Cups be the ceiling. When we let the Five of Cups be the thing that stops us, right? And you can make your joy the ceiling too, because don't confuse this with just letting people run all over you. It's not boundaries that we're talking about. This is about what ceilings and limits are you putting on your joy, on making your joy accessible to you, right? Making your joy accessible. And I think the overcoming here is overcoming your worries. This is your thoughts about it. It's almost like the monsters in the closet are scarier than the things that are actually existing there, which is just clothing. But at 3:00 in the morning after you have a nightmare, right? It's all scary. And things take different shape. That's why I don't watch horror movies, because I often find that my dreams take the shape of what I've watched. So I try not to watch too many things that are overstimulating after a certain hour. But nonetheless, it's like realizing the monsters in the closet aren't real. And it's like, but that is part of this process of seeing things clearly, specific to this investment that you're making. Because this could just be investing energy in thoughts, investing energy in beliefs, investing energy in energetic cords and it's not about cutting them. It's about releasing them on the one hand, but it's also about how much energy are you investing in those things. And when they get pulled or when they get tugged upon, because you're thinking about and going over it, ruminating, which I understand too, for folks with ADHD and who are neurodivergent, it takes on a different character, because rumination is part of having ADHD. So be gentle with yourself if you do have or find yourself in that umbrella of neurodivergence, right? So do be kind to yourselves, right? Don't judge yourself for that, because the tools that you need to get through it are just different. That's all. It's just a different set of tools. But nonetheless, I think it's like taking it. there's slow here. And I think it's like respecting that slow progress may still be like it, you may be frustrated, but it's still progress, right? It's understanding that things don't have to change tomorrow. Sometimes it's knowing that they're changing that allows you to see all of these beautiful things that are being seeded in your life, that are being planted in your life. And then the really amazing part here is that this is like, you're the seed, right? Again, I go back to the color of these things and the shape and all of that, but it's like, you're the seed, right? That one that gets planted, right? That one that gets, it's that compass. It's like your compass is what plants all of these seeds, and you don't even realize necessarily that you're doing it. It's just part of the path. And that's where this clarity of where you are right now is so important. But the more crucial thing is not to put ceilings on your joy, because we can do this because the Five of Cups is like, I'm doing the work, it's shadow work, it's facing my disappointments, it's facing things, but how much facing things can you do before you, like, then what? You have to also then let in joy. You then also have to balance that with something, right? It can't just be work all the time, because then your energy is going to suffer too. It's going to be drained, right? And it's also understanding, what is yours to worry about and what is not, right? And it's repeating phrases like the following: that is not in my job description. That is not a me problem. And if it's something, and that sounds so harsh, but I say it with humor sometimes, but like, don't think about it, go charging in and be like, that's not a me problem. No, we're not talking about deflecting responsibility. It's understanding that is a way of reinforcing, however harsh it may sound, that's a way of reinforcing what is yours and what is not. Right? Tyler's Tarot says it all the time. Buy Potato Head. I do that when I'm driving now, right? Like somebody will be like, some makes and models of cars don't always come with blinkers or turn signals, apparently. And there will be times where I'm driving, I'm like, okay, buy Potato Head, right? And it's like, thinking about like, is this in Potato Head's job description? Is this like, make it funny, right? Add humor to it so that there's a levity to it. Because this doesn't have to be like all work and so intense. It doesn't have to be like that. And I think that's allowing lightness in, right? That's part of this slow progress too, is taking your time with this is also about taking your time with yourself, because there is going to be forward movement and momentum, but it's knowing what to take your time with and what to spend time reflecting on in your best and highest good, because that's the forward movement. That's the movement forward. That's the progression. So I'm going to pull from this deck here just for some additional guidance and clarification. Before we start to close out this reading. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for July 12th, please? Messages for July 12th. So the Ten of Wands came out again. That was there yesterday too. But it's coming out sooner, so I almost feel like you're getting better at seeing what things to let go of and what things are worthy of your attention and time, what things are worthy of your investment, right? And it's like, that's a beautiful energy to see on the jump, because again, it's like the way that you're seeing this investment, like you are the investment that you're making. There's a part of you that's like your compass is guiding you, but it's like by carrying few things, right? You have a different kind of compass. The Nine of Wands and the Ten of Wands are like a boundary, and I say the nine because it came out yesterday, but like this is an energy of look, there's no how light a journey is this, right? Look at the comparatively speaking, how light a journey is this. So we have the Ten of Wands. Spirit, what messages do you have? Whoa. King of Swords. Yeah, this is like the ultimate clarity. This is also some Aquarian energy too, but this is like clarity. This is like clarity. This is not over analyzing things. Knight of Swords. This is clarity, but this is also the movement forward. Sorry, I was seeing the movement. And again, fast moving energy. The Knight of Swords and the Eight of Wands are movement, but it's movement about the investments. Like when you realize, like that's what frees you up. When you realize what you don't need to carry anymore, this Ten of Wands, I have a feeling and a suspicion that it's related to this overthinking, right? When you feel, when you do not give life enough room to work on your behalf or enough time to sort out some of the details, you can throw yourself into this energy thinking thinking that it's doing something helpful for the end result, but not always. That's where we can do that injustice to ourselves, and we need to really sit in that Queen of Swords clarity about the fact that there's a kind of harm that we're doing to ourselves in that process. But again, this Ten of Wands is the releasing of that sort of burden, that frustrated energy. And sometimes worry is a frustration. It's certainly not frustrated, or it's not expressed as frustration as we would normally experience it. Like, oh, that's frustrating. Like, it's like a tense energy. But this is like frustration turned inward, where you do yourself harm. So do not, like, that's where it's like this call to pull away from that, and to focus more on, this is almost like asking the question and letting it simmer, right? How have I placed a ceiling on my joy, and how do I let more of it in, right? What do I think? This is almost like realistic ceilings that we place, right? So realistic ceilings that we place on the joy that we might experience, or the good that we think is possible. What's possible? And like really seeing the ceiling on it. Really seeing the ceiling on that. And understanding that sometimes, I've experienced this where, like, in my transness, I would be like, oh, well, this was a ceiling it was a system. And it's like, well, some of that is true, but the majority of it is something that I was imposing upon myself. And then when you pull that back and you experience it in a different way, you realize that the ceiling, there was a part of the system, yes, but it's a lot of the way that you're integrating the energy and mobilizing it for you. Because we have, we are not in a generation right now that is going to see the overthrow of the way that capitalism treats people. I do not believe that. I don't know that that's possible. And people may be like, that's a ceiling. Okay. But in terms of a system, right? We're talking about a system. And uncomfortable, like, the overthrows or changes of systems abruptly, and not the slow pace, like this Knight of Pentacles. If it's an abrupt change, what can sometimes happen is there's even more hardship, right? So this is about thinking about it in terms of, like, if we contextualize it in terms of this is what may just be the case, that actually blasts the ceiling open on ourselves, because then we can contextualize ourselves in a way that gives us access to joy, because we understand, we have a better grasp of what disappointment and that might mean. We have a better grasp on, okay, so if that isn't going to work out, you surrender it, you let it go. You're like, okay, that doesn't need to be fixed in order for me to have access to my joy. That doesn't need to be fixed in order for me to have access to connection to others in ways that make me feel like I'm around sunlight, right? The warmth of sunshine. It doesn't, I don't need those external conditions to change. 2-2-2-2 on the time. So it's sitting in that energy too, and understanding that even when it comes to systems, this stuff still applies. I know I'm very systems thinking, but call it the Aquarian in my chart. Spirit, what messages do you have here in addition to what you've given us so far? So we have the Wheel of Fortune. Yes. The Wheel of Fortune, and this is the Ten of Cups. That's beautiful. I'm just going to get one more, Spirit. Yeah, I think it's like, this is like the surrender. We have the Seven of Cups. So this is like the surrender. So this is the expansion. So it's on the Hanged Man here. This is the expansion after the surrender. That surrender that I just talked about, where it's like, okay, these disappointments happened and they don't have to be this anymore. So if you release your attachment to what it should have been, could have been, should be, how it needs to be, yes, all of those things can be true. But then when you pull back and you just sit in the understanding that in this present moment, it's not that, and just say, okay, it gives you greater access into it's like an internal expansion that then allows you to move. It mobilizes your energy forward. It moves things in a specific direction with this Eight of Wands, where it gives you that access to not just joy, but it gives you access to all of the inspiration and the inspired intention that joy informs. So not only do you become more accessible to you, life becomes more accessible to you, other people, you become more accessible to other people, because this ceiling that you put unintentionally on your joy and the ways that you see and experience the world, that also causes you to contract inside, because you can't expand into the possibility, because you reach it and you go, but that's not what that's not what is true. And that's, again, that might be true, right? That might be what you see. But in so many times that have been so, there's just, it's shades of difficulty that have, overtaken different contexts and eras and ways that we frame our experiences. And things can be difficult, but it doesn't mean that we have to be inaccessible to ourselves. So that's where I feel like this Wheel of Fortune is this sort of expansion, not just in, and this is like luck, right? Like this is a little bit of luck, but it's also a bit of feeling like fate is working behind the scenes. And that's where hope comes from. That's where faith comes from, because we look at this card and we see Jupiter, but it's also, it crosses so many different religions and faiths and experiences. That's where you get into, that's where people say, oh, well, God's hand is in it. That's where people say, oh, well, the Spirit's got it. Like, give it to God. Take it, like, that's the surrender. But that allows us to expand, not necessarily from a place of, I'm ignoring this and I'm closing my eyes to this. But this is looking at it from a place of, like, this is something that isn't just unique to tarot. that's sort of the translation of Jupiter into all of these different areas. So it's something that crosses through and cuts through. It's an experience of surrendering to whatever energy you call God, and saying, okay, there's a happiness that is accessible to me, and I choose that. And it's like the way that it unlocks joy. 10 of Cups, 7 of Cups, there's so much outpouring, and you realize that there's so many cups that you have to choose from now. And that energy is an expansion, not just of, fate or your path or destiny, but it's also an expansion of the heart space and what's possible for you. And what's possible for you, not meaning limitation or productivity, but this is about what's possible for you in the context of what you're allowing yourself to experience and feel, which is connected to worthiness and whether you believe that you're enough, right? So I'm going to pull from the Life Loves You deck here. So we're going to dive into that energy as well. A little bit of like community facing stuff here. Some Aquarian energy for sure. Uranian energy more so. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for July 12th, please? Messages for July 12th. I choose to live with ease. Look at that. Yeah, and that's kind of what it becomes, right? Like, don't push away emotions as they come up. Feel them all. But don't forget to factor in whether or not you're making this accessible to you, because you deserve joy. You deserve that lightness, right? So I choose to live with ease. Life does not have to be as difficult as you sometimes make it. Complete this sentence. One way I could let my life be easier is. And really asking yourself that. One way I could let my life be easier is. Right? And then let's pull this postcard from Spirit here. So you are fierce. I like that. You are fierce. Dearest you, there's only one you, and you have a unique path and special purpose. You're supposed to have specific experiences in this world and meet certain people, but then it is up to you to how you live and how awake you choose to be and how willing you are to grow and strip away what's false. Don't compare yourself to others. It's easy to think a person is happier just because their outside looks good according to society's standards, but you can't know anyone's internal experience. Compare yourself only to your past self. See how far you've come? Don't be distracted by what others are doing or accomplishing. Stay focused on what inspires you. That's how you get successful and find happiness. What you want what you have now, not what someone else has. We love you immensely and know your journey ahead is sparkling with miracles and wondrous things. Trust. Loving you forever and ever. Beautiful. So my darling daily creatives, that is your message for today. If this resonated, please give it a like and subscribe. You know the drill. But wherever this finds you, of course, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very well, my darlings. Take care.